All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Hello, all. What a pleasure to be with you on a Friday as America comes unglued. It is a pleasure to share the economic decline with all of you, my friends. Yes. West Coast. What up, West Coast? What up, East Coast? 2 to 4 on the East Coast, 11 to 1 on the West Coast. We are a live show. We will bring you provoking, provocative conversations, conversations that provoke, and conversations that are provocative. We are going to be provoking provocatively. And I'm the provoking candidate, and I appreciate your vote, everyone. Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Some late recorded arrivals. I appreciate that. The doctor is in today. Dr. Daignault is going to be talking to us about everything, the complete dismantling of the CDC, getting rid of all the scientists, getting rid of all the doctors. Let's just let America's natural immunity get us through everything, right? Yeah, it's bring it on, bring disease on. Let's end this quickly. It is, it's actually going to be a very interesting conversation with the doctor in just a couple of minutes. Our segment is called Vital Signs. He's a regular visitor. By the way, I had Anthony Davis, who is a brilliant mind on the Midas Touch Network. He comes through. He's a neighbor of mine, and he's just a very good friend, and I enjoy him so much. But he comes through, and he changes and reconfigures the studio and the technical side. So if there's anything different today, like the levels seem distorted or something's wrong, I need you to tell me, because sometimes in service of good, bad is done temporarily, right?
We're blaming Anthony Davis today? That's who
we can. I like to leave it out there as a potential area of blame, even though I'm not blaming him right now.
I blame you.
Yeah, might be my fault, come to think of it. Hey, by the way, Commish, Albert is the commissioner of Mark's Madness, which is underway. And Commish, I think I Blame You plays today. Doesn't I Blame You go off today?
Yeah, I believe I Blame You is one of the 4 actually that will be discussed today.
Yeah.
Now, Mark's Madness.
Yeah, so we are in the middle of Mark's Madness. And, March Madness is basketball. March Madness is the world of drops going up against each other on this show. Albert, could you let us know what happened with yesterday's drops and those contests yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday, Try Ignoring It took it over Oprah Conversation.
Oh,
and
yeah,
the one that was actually close, which was Coffee Down versus Going Back to Texas, it went to Going Back to Texas. So.
Oh, Going Back to Texas took out a Coffee Down.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
All right, that goes on to the next round. But I really love Coffee Down.
Put that coffee down.
But Coffee Down is going to that big barista in the sky. Not going to be, not going to be happening. All right, so today we'll get right to it. I do have a tariff talk. I also have much in the way of conversation with Jim Avila, the former ABC News correspondent, senior correspondent, Murrow Award winner, Emmy Award winner, and White House correspondent for many years. He will join us today with Michael Shure. We'll talk about the week in politics, informed not in a small measure by the tariffs. So we will speak about tariffs. It's not just tariffs, as you know. It's the completely manic, bizarre, and arbitrary nature of the tariffs. They follow no coherent path. The math is wrong. The policy is wrong. It's a mess. It's really just what I tell you about Trump. It's a flex. He likes the power to just assert himself. And even in this way, that will be the economic undoing of America in a very short order. You're already seeing it in the American markets. What America lacks is natural immunity to stupidity, says commentator. That's commentator. That is exactly right. All right, now I'll get into the heavy stuff in a minute.
Mark's
Right now,
Madness.
yeah, right now it's Mark's Madness. I know. I can't believe it either. You'll vote today, and you'll vote in the post section of our YouTube channel, either for that. Okay, so either you vote for or.
Oh,
Did you hear anything, Albert, or not?
No.
You're not hearing anything. All right, this is God.
You know,
I am just.
I blame Anthony Davis.
I blame you.
I do blame Anthony Davis. I
heard
really
that.
do.
we heard that one. We heard that one.
Mhm.
Yeah, you've heard that.
Yeah,
I am just disgusted. I am really disgusted.
it's a
Day after
disappointment.
day.
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Actually, these are set to where they should be. I don't know why you didn't hear those. Except that he's probably rewired something. Who the hell knows? All right, you're going to vote for either I Blame You. Is that right, Albert? It's what are the two again? It's
Yeah, I blame you and the classic tube and the one I just
okay,
played
so
right
you'll
now.
vote for either
I blame you.
or you'll vote for it was wrong.
It was wrong,
stupid.
it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Thank you. So the classic Tubin goes up against I Blame
you.
or the Tubin. You vote for the Tube. If that is your desire, you'll vote until midnight tonight, and we'll work out what's happening and why you can't hear what my computer's putting out. All right, good times. I Blame You off to a strong start, says Uncle Russ.
Mm-hmm.
I Blame You, I have going deep. But you can see I Blame You, with just a handful of votes, 83% to 17% already. So, good times. We continue.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I do want to take you quickly before I get to the doctor to a little bit of what has happened overnight, and as the dust settles on the ridiculousness and the economic malpractice that is associated with this Trump economic policy on tariffs. Albert, give me my first video. This is, I believe, from overseas. This is French television.
Let's cross back to Professor Scott Lucas, Professor of US and International Politics. Scott, we spoke to you a little bit earlier. Now that we've heard what the detail is from Donald Trump, what do you make of all of that?
Before talking about the effects, and they're bad, let me just say that I think that was the dumbest, most economically illiterate speech I have heard in my life. And I've heard a lot of bad ones. It was filled with lies and distortions, and I need to back that up. For example, the idea that the European Union has a 39% tariff rate on the United States. The weighted average of EU tariffs on the US is 1%. Japan, which supposedly, according to Trump, had a 46% tariff rate, the weighted average of tariffs on US products is 3.2%. Marcus Peterson, who was excellent, highlighted the fact that other countries which actually have high tariff rates, like Turkey, all of a sudden get favored treatment from Trump, at least relatively favored, by paying only 10%. What you had was someone who is the president of the United States speaking almost absolute nonsense. And the biggest nonsense of all was the idea that tariffs can replace income taxes and that they will lead to economic growth. They won't. Now, how bad is this? You have varying rates across the board. You have 20% on the EU. You have 34% on China, even higher on some countries. Lowest rates are still only going to be, are still at least 10%. The Aston Business School modeled this, and earlier this week came out and said, in the event of a 20 to 25% US tariff, and we're roughly talking about that across the board, if the EU and other countries retaliate, the loss to the global economy will be 1.4 trillion. That is trillion with a T, dollars to the global economy. The tax burden, effective tax burden on the US taxpayers will be $6 trillion with a T. This is one of the most, in addition to being economically illiterate speeches, it is accompanied by one of the most economically damaging actions that have been taken since the last round of high tariffs, which was in the 1930s, which helped lead to the Great Depression.
And
That's good. Thank you, Albert. I think that really is all you need to know. From, economist to economist, you get the same analysis, which is this is utter lunacy. I'll discuss it more with Shure and with Avila. One other piece I wanted to play because I thought it is worth noting that it is something that we were aware we were going to get. In fact, Kamala Harris spoke of it in the only debate. Remember the debate where he says they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats? That meltdown debate. If he'd had to do one more, it might have even swung the election. Well, Kamala Harris in that debate actually pointed to this policy. Go ahead, Albert.
That I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries.
Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years.
Yeah. Okay. So, of course, Americans pay the tariffs, and the tariffs are something that, well, the tariff computation defies any kind of explanation, a coherent explanation. I played you yesterday Bessent, who is the Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, and he couldn't explain them. He was like in this weird place. Remember, he was begging. He was saying, "China, hey, I know this is going to be tough on you, but please don't retaliate because we'll get through this." He was virtually begging these adversarial markets that are now on adversarial footing in a really extreme way to not strike back. But of course, China has struck back, as they should. So, and the last thing I'll say, and then I want to get to the doctor. The last thing I'll say is the idea of changing America's economy to somehow a manufacturing economy. We're a service-oriented economy. A lot of developed countries have gone from being manufacturing economies to service-oriented economies. We're one of them. So when, and by the way, this doesn't mean that, during COVID, for example, we didn't realize that we did rely inordinately maybe on China, and there were supply chain issues, and it really pointed up some of the soft spots in our economy and in production related to things like healthcare. We'll talk to the doctor about that maybe in a moment. But the idea that you're going to pivot the economy this way by somehow onshoring a bunch of this production that's now offshore, it's lunacy. It takes years to build these plants. I mean, I don't mean 3 to 5 years. It could take 10 to 15 years to really onshore a lot of these businesses. So there is that. And then the other thing is the first thing I mentioned, which is that we're a services-oriented economy, and he doesn't even count that. He's only counting goods. He's only counting manufactured goods in this whole deficit thing. In this whole trade deficit, he's computing in this bizarre way. So he gives us a robust service economy no credit for that. Finance, financial services, healthcare, these are all things that are technology. These are all related to a service economy. That's what we have. That's America's strength. But Trump discounts it and thinks it's all about this bizarre math that he does that puts us on the wrong end of tariffs. They're not even tariffs that are being levied against America. It's just a trade deficit that he's then putting in the tariff column. It's utter absurdity. And it's leading, as you know, to a crash and burn in the American markets and the markets worldwide. But the last thing I'll say is it's the American markets that are owning it the worst. We are taking way more water on than any other market in the world. Check it right now. Google it. I did before I came on. And it's extraordinary. We're seeing the worst of it, and we will see the worst of it if this continues. So we'll revisit this in the next hour.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Right now, I want to continue with a segment that we just began. It's a way that we can check in on a lot of the issues around medicine and around healthcare, around disease. both domestically and worldwide. We do it in a segment we call Vital Signs.
Looking for some good medical advice?
Supposing you brought the light inside the body.
Let's hear what a real doctor has to say. This is Vital Signs on the Mark Thompson Show.
He is a real doctor, working the ER. Dr. Michael Daignault, everyone. Come on. Yes. Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you for joining us. So, this is an interesting place we find ourselves in. I'll leave the tariffs to the side, although I kind of referenced healthcare and the fact that we are kind of a service economy, really, and I didn't think that stock was taken of that by the president in his remarks and his economic policy. But again, let's put that to the side, and I want to talk about what's happening elsewhere in the administration, because at the CDC under RFK Jr., there are a bunch of there are thousands of people who've lost their jobs, but most recently there were a bunch of people fired who he fired mistakenly, and he said, "Oh no, we want to rehire them. They were fired by mistake." Can you speak to this?
Yeah, it was. It's been a rough week. So HHS across the board slashed 10,000 jobs. So not only at the CDC, as you mentioned, I think it was 2,400 scientists, researchers lost their jobs at the CDC, another 3,500 at FDA, and then 1,200 at NIH. And RFK's argument, in alignment with what Doge and Elon were doing, is that there are too many redundancies, too many bureaucrats, and they're saying that, you know, our healthcare metrics are just getting worse despite all the money and despite all the staff. But the people that they fired, as you mentioned, were researchers and scientists that are involved in making sure our food supply is safe, reviewing new medications that come onto market from pharma. And as you mentioned, in the last 24 hours, RFK has said, "Oh, we made a mistake. We fired too many people." One of those groups was reviewing. So there was a case of a lead exposure at a school in Milwaukee, and the school reached out to CDC, and there was no one there in the office to help them manage this lead exposure in this school. And the second thing is, we've talked about multiple times with bird flu. This week, there were 40 centers across the United States that were going to be involved in testing our food supply, particularly dairy products, to make sure that there wasn't any bird flu. That whole program's been canceled because there's just no staff, no researchers able to do it. And a lot of the cuts, if you look at CDC, FDA, and NIH, are focused on infectious disease. It's really bizarre to me. They are so scared. I don't know if this is coming from just how they felt about how COVID was handled, but they're just slashing infectious disease coverage, particularly HIV research. 230 grants at NIH were canceled that are focused on HIV. And it's just baffling to me what's going on.
So part of RFK Jr.'s pitch is always, your natural immunity, take some vitamin A, rub some margarine on your nose, whatever it is. I mean, it's really, it is kind of voodoo medicine based on what I'm hearing from you and what I've read. In dealing with serious disease, I mean, bird flu among those things that he's talked about. Measles, is the one where he talked about vitamin A quite specifically. But what I'm wondering is, are you seeing maybe what is something that people feared in RFK Jr., which is a break back against conventional medicine, if you want to think of it that way, in his both his firings and his defunding of so many of these things that might have been helpful in waging the fight against what are a lot of persistent disease problems that we're having worldwide.
Right, and a lot of the firings were in communication staff, particularly at CDC. There's a number of offices there that are involved with coordinating public health messages to give us information, and particularly the ones on bird flu are all silenced. So, you look around, you say, have there been any new cases of bird flu in humans? We don't know. And it's almost like they just choose to just ignore it, don't talk about it, don't communicate to us, hope it goes away. It's kind of almost how Trump was handling COVID in early 2020, where they just didn't want to talk about how many infections there were and just hoping that it was going to go away. And, I'm sure we'll get to more on measles, but one thing I wanted to touch on, particularly with vitamin A, is that, I've been told that in Lubbock, Texas, the pediatricians at one of the children's hospitals there, when they were treating kids recently with severe measles, kids that weren't vaccinated, they noticed that some of these kids had jaundice, like their skin was yellow, and they were like, this is a little odd. So they checked their blood test to look at the liver function, and they found that they had, liver injury, advanced liver disease, and that was because they were getting high doses of vitamin A from their parents, from cod liver oil, from going to quack doctors in the area that were recommending taking a bunch of vitamin A to prevent measles, and so they were coming in with severe liver toxicity.
Albert, Albert or Kim, can you show, I think the doctor sent a chart about measles, and in Texas, you see, I think the chart is pertaining to, there you go. Yeah, this is hospitalization rates from influenza and measles.
Right.
In Texas. Go ahead, doctor. It's a very simple chart to understand, but can you walk us through it?
Yeah, and the thing that when he did that interview on Fox, when he was eating the fries and what the name of that, the beef tallow oil, and he was saying, there's doctors on the ground in Texas that are doing amazing things and treating patients with measles with high doses of vitamin A. And that spread in that community. That misinformation spread. Parents were giving their kids vitamin A, and it led to kids getting hurt and kids requiring hospitalization, not only for severe measles, but vitamin A toxicity. And you talk about Trump's malpractice with the tariffs in our economy. This is medical malpractice from the head of HHS. Like, that in and of itself, he should resign. That is so detrimental to our public health that you're telling parents to do this, and they're harming their kids. It's just heartbreaking to watch.
Yeah, I think it's the power of his the bully pulpit. It's the power of his megaphone. It's so much louder, and it's reverberated across a lot of alternative media. So you get these alternative cures or alternative ways in which you can prevent yourself from contracting disease. And it's just spoken of, again, in this media ecosphere that is so friendly to quackery, Right. But to see it as public policy is, it's extremely disturbing. As you say, it's really capsized the vessel of good health.
Yeah, and just to segue a little bit into measles, if we can. I was looking at the numbers today. We're over 600 cases already by the beginning of April. And when we first talked about measles a couple weeks ago, it was Texas, New Mexico. Now we're looking at Alaska, California, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Vermont, Washington. It's unbelievable, and that's in a matter of weeks. This is literally going epidemic. And I was also told that in West Texas, a number of the free measles vaccination sites were closed. So, it's mind blowing when you have a readily available vaccine that provides 97% protection for all of your life against measles. That's readily available. It's so easy. One of the other things I want to mention for our viewers that's important is, the first dose for the MMR vaccine is around 12 to 14 months. But now, because of the outbreak here and abroad, in Europe, we're seeing increased cases of measles too. Parents, if you're traveling with your kids and they're under 12 months, so at least 6 months, you can get that first dose of measles MMR vaccine early, but you would still need to do the additional 2. So that's if you are traveling internationally, if you're going to areas where there's a lot of measles and you're worried that your newborn is not at the age for the first dose, but they're 6 months old, you can get that first dose. So might be something to consider.
I wonder what you see, just thinking of the public policies that RFK Jr. has imposed, and I'm remembering that this is just from a couple of days ago, that he's funded now vaccine studies. He has funded some pretty well-funded, as I'm recalling, vaccine studies that seem almost reverse engineered to show problems with vaccines. And the reason I say this is it seems as though the people associated with doing these studies, those who have been given these grants through RFK Jr. and HHS, they are, to call them vaccine skeptics is to be kind. I mean, they're anti-vaxxers.
Yeah, you're right. And, we talked about this briefly before, but he announced that the CDC is going to commission a study looking at possible connections between vaccines, particularly the MMR vaccine, which is the major target of the anti-vaxxers, and autism. And, that's been studied ad nauseum for years, millions of kids across multiple studies. There's no connection between vaccines and autism. And the reason why we saw increased numbers of autism cases over the last few years is because the diagnosis has become a lot more broader. People are much more aware of it. We're doing more studies. Pediatricians are looking out for this. And so that's the reason why that went up. And, one thing to point out is one of their targets has always been that the use of mercury as a stabilization chemical in vaccines. They pointed to that level of mercury and saying that's the reason for having increased cases of autism. But we haven't used that in MMR vaccines for 25 years. And even when we stopped that and we stopped additional chemicals that they would point out that were just stabilization agents for the vaccines, the cases of autism continue to go up despite that. And so I feel like this study, the guy that they chose to lead this study is somebody he's a fraud. I mean, he was practicing medicine without a license. And you give that study to somebody like that, we know what the outcome is going to be of the study already. Like, they're going to find some way to blame vaccines for autism, to blame vaccines for whatever they want to pin it on this time.
Exactly. That's my point. I mean, they've reversed engineered it. So all of this exists in this world of upheaval when it comes to U.S. healthcare. I wonder if you can touch on, you mentioned AIDS and the fact that HIV and AIDS prevention has been a big part historically of the American soft power that we exercise worldwide. Now that's been pulled. Ebola responses are pulled. I think, Albert, you have a graphic on all of these different things that are associated with the cuts that this administration has been behind. There it is: malaria prevention, vaccine trials, bed nets cut, HIV, AIDS, treatment for 20 million is at risk, Ebola response teams dismantled. Ebola is another very, it's a deadly illness, right? I mean, it's deadly, and how communicable is Ebola, just because we're on it?
Extremely. And, the way that they look at infectious disease as a problem happening over there and not here. And it's just mind blowing. Like any disease that starts somewhere else can end up on our shores. And it's exactly like you mentioned with the soft power. Like President George W. Bush, one of his milestone achievements was PEPFAR, which was this amazing program to fund antiretroviral treatment for people living with HIV and AIDS across the world. And it was a huge success, and it's been ongoing. We've continued to still fund this. And if you cut that off and you stop giving people antiretrovirals, even for a couple of days, you allow the virus to start propagating again. And then HIV steadily becomes AIDS, which is what, wipes out your immune system and makes you susceptible to a lot of other diseases and then could possibly kill you. And so, when we abandon that soft power vacuum of global health in those countries, other countries are going to fill that void, particularly China. And, President Trump is so concerned about the influence of China, but you're basically giving them a foothold in global health, whether that means pulling us out of WHO or defunding a lot of these global health programs that we've done for years.
You also point to famine and the detection of early warning for those areas sensitive to famine. Food aid tracking ended, maternal and child nutrition, prenatal care, fortified food cut. These are all programs that have been cut now at USAID and HHS. Yeah,
and I'm just it makes me very concerned. Working in the ER at the front line. I remember in New York when I was a resident there, when we had that Ebola scare, and depending on what day of the week it was, your team was responsible for screening anybody that came in with suspected Ebola symptoms or who had traveled, particularly to certain West African countries. And that was like a scary time where you're like, okay, it's Monday, our team is going to be responsible, and somebody would come in with fever, body aches, recently overseas travel. And so, these diseases are not in a vacuum. And
well, a doctor in New York was the guy who got it. Remember, he went bowling. He said I had a headache or whatever. I didn't feel bad. It's not too so bad. He went bowling right there, I think in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. I want to quickly give you a couple of questions from our audience. Please ask Dr. Michael Daignault about new flu and COVID shots and what we should do if they don't come out. If the government doesn't produce them, what should we do about flu and COVID vaccines?
No, that's a great question, because we talked on here before about how RFK canceled a lot of those meetings of the scientists and the researchers that happened early in the spring to determine what the makeup of the vaccines for COVID and flu are going to be for the fall. And so what happened was there was a closed door meeting of a couple officials, and they basically agreed to accept the recommendations that the WHO had already adopted for what is going to be in the flu vaccine for the fall. So, but as far as COVID, what I'm hearing and what I, see on Twitter is that a lot of the RFK anti-vax followers are asking him to literally pull the COVID vaccine, the mRNA vaccines off the market. So I think that's a strong possibility that could happen. I can't see that happening for flu, but they are so anti anything with mRNA that it's become such a four-letter word for them. So I honestly have no idea what's going to happen with COVID for the fall, but at least we should have our annual flu shots available.
Nevitz Forever says we lucked out with COVID-19 vaccines. They worked as well as they did, mainly because of the basic research done from 20 years of paid government research, and now it will be stopped. It's just stupid. Yeah, it is true, something related to that, the great thing about science research is that it builds on itself. A certain fact or series of facts is well established, and then you guys build on that. A certain treatment regimen is established, and then you realize, oh, wait, we can modify it this way, and we can actually improve on that treatment regimen. I mean, scientists do such a great job of layering and sharing their research and improving upon it and tweaking it. And I feel as though Nevitz Forever with that comment is right, that, the 20 years of research into how to treat this virus or pandemic or epidemic, whatever the situation might be, the healthcare needs are oftentimes treated by the healthcare research that goes on over decades.
Yeah, I mean, these researchers and scientists, particularly at NIH, constantly on the ground. I mean, it takes a long time to start a research study. You have to enroll participants. You have to have within a study a control group and then the research group. And, you need a lot of people in the study. It takes a lot of years to come up with your findings. And then you have the FDA officials who are involved in reviewing, food safety, drug safety. And now we're not going to have a lot of those. And so it's going to take a lot longer for pharmaceutical companies to bring new medications, new antibiotics to market too.
I have so much I want to talk to you about, and I've spent a lot of time on this, so I'm not managing my time too well. But I wanted to ask you about something that is selfishly of interest to me, and that is on a cruise ship, because we've taken some cruises lately. On a cruise ship recently, a high-end cruise ship, it's the Cunard line, Yeah. I just imagine the Cunard line, everybody dressed in those, black tie and champagne constantly being, But they had a major norovirus outbreak. They had 200 people sickened by it. Tell me what norovirus is again, why it's, or how communicable it is. But more, I'm curious why cruise ships are sort of the floating petri dishes that we think of them as. Are they really the place that disease or bacteria or it can just grow more fertily than in other places?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this because you raised a really interesting question. Like, why is it always cruise ships? Why is it always norovirus? So, as you remember, over the winter, we actually had a lot of cases of norovirus in the United States, and um, there's multiple reasons why this happens on cruise ships. So, first, primarily the virus itself, compared to other GI gastrointestinal bugs, norovirus has a very short incubation period, meaning that from the time you get exposed to the time you develop symptoms is really short, about 12 to 48 hours. So that allows for a very rapid spread. The second thing, on a cruise ship, you have in this case of this cruise ship, it was 2,000 plus passengers plus 200 crew in very tight quarters. Third, you share a lot of the same facilities, right? Where you eat, the pool, the entertainment venues. The fourth thing is you have frequent passenger embarkation, disembarkation, right? You're going to different ports, people are getting on, people are getting off. And then probably the main reason is that norovirus flourishes is, the environment, the ventilation systems, the shared water sources. If those aren't kept tip top, this thing will spread like wildfire through a cruise ship. And then finally, you have limited medical facilities. You don't have enough staff or places to keep patients and to treat them. And, going back again to norovirus, this is very difficult to eradicate. Like the Purell, the alcohol in Purell does not kill norovirus. It has
that's fascinating.
Yes, it has a lipid shell that protects the virus. The only thing that really works is bleach.
Wow.
So
because they have those Purell things everywhere on a cruise ship, but you're saying not a.
Nope.
Heather Kennedy says norovirus can survive for a long time on surfaces, I think. Is that right, Doctor? Yeah.
That's 100% right. And it's almost more of the hand rubbing that like trauma of like literally breaking apart the virus envelope and the bleach that is going to kill it. And so, it's the false reassurance of having that Purell and even just like regular hand sanitizers and soap in the bathroom is not going to do it. And once that takes off, once it takes hold because of the short incubation period, it spreads very quickly.
Wow. We have a cruise to Alaska next month. So I guess we'll bring the bleach, though, which we should be okay. This from Donna McKee with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Donna, for that. We need to figure out how to get rid of RFK Jr. before he kills us and our loved ones. I chuckle, but it's true. I mean, he's a dangerous guy and going after things very aggressively. And it's interesting, too, in the vetting process and confirmation process, how he was sort of like, no, I'm not like that. That's been blown out of proportion. Then he gets into office, and of course, he just takes a blowtorch to everything. I wanted to ask you about Dr. Oz, who's joined the administration. Dr. Oz is confirmed now. He'll be heading up this group that will administrate to, is it Medicare? I believe that that's one of the things, Medicaid, and Medicare will be under his purview, apparently. This is the television personality, and he ran for Senate as well, but he was confirmed, and he's viewed as this sort of quack doctor on one level, and I think also as a media personality on another level. What is your thought on Dr. Oz and his role within the administration?
It's interesting what you say. Like during the hearings, a lot of them, Dr. Oz, RFK, even the ones that are appointed to the NIH, they were asked about their stances, particularly on vaccines. And in Dr. Oz's case, he was asked about a lot of the snake oil supplements that he sold over the years. And, they would, disavow that. They would say, no, I'm not anti-vax. But then they end up doing exactly what they said they were doing. I mean, it's like during the presidential the debates and last year, the campaign season, when Trump basically told us everything he was going to do, and we were like, no, he's not going to really do that. And then we've seen that they've done it. And so, it's just mind blowing because like a lot of the senators asked some good questions to these candidates when they were being confirmed, and they didn't hold them to it. They even had private meetings, and they felt assured after the meeting that they were not going to do these quackery things. They were not going to pursue this anti-vax agenda, and then they did it anyway. And it's just mind blowing. Like people literally have told them what they were going to do. In Dr. Oz's case with Medicare and Medicaid, the thing that is concerning is that there was a study that came out yesterday that 30% of Americans right now don't have access to quality medical care. And what Dr. Oz wants to do, what I've heard, is to privatize Medicare. And that's just going to make it even more difficult for people to have access to their doctors and the specialists they need. And what's going to happen is a lot of those patients without insurance are going to end up in the ER. And the ERs, emergency departments across the country, are already overloaded with patients. We have very long wait times. When I try to refer people to specialists, it can take months. And it gets to the point where their disease progresses so much because they can't follow up that they end up in the ER with severe complications, requiring admissions, where the plane has already crashed into the mountain at that point. And so that, we're going to see the brunt of that for sure.
Yeah, the privatization is something that, of course, they want across government. They want everything from the Postal Service to the military to health services to health insurance, all of it to be privatized. And beyond that, that's just a handful that I mentioned. Am I leaving anything out? We're out of time, but I don't want to leave anything on the table that I was supposed to get to. This is like a real doctor's office. When I go to the doctor's office, I'm going for one thing, but I go, don't forget to tell them about your hand, how you're having trouble with your hand. And then when I leave, I realize on the ride home, oh my God, I didn't mention the hand. So I'm asking you, doctor, did I leave anything out?
It's funny you mentioned that. So we have a term in the ER. It's called getting doorknobbed. So like you're done with the patient and you're leaving the room. You have your hand on the door, and they're like, wait. So I also wanted to ask you about
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I don't know if you can bring up that chart I sent you about the measles. It was the norovirus contagiousness.
You do have a good thing on norovirus and how contagious it is. Albert, do you see that?
Be cool to get that up as a parting gift. Okay, yeah. So this is how we measure contagiousness of viruses. This is all the common GI bugs, and so at the bottom there you see norovirus, and so what it looks like R0, we call that R0, and so that means for every one patient that's infected with norovirus, they transmit it to 2.2, so at least two other patients, or two other people. So that just shows you how contagious this is. If the R0 is less than 1, that means that it's probably going to burn out, meaning that one person is unlikely to give it to even one other person. But when you have an R0 of over 2 on a cruise ship of 2,000 people in tight quarters, it's the perfect storm for norovirus to take off. And this is the reason why it's always norovirus outbreaks on the cruise ship.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And it's really debilitating illness, right? It's a GI thing, right? It's coming out of both ends of you.
Yeah, it's like having the flu in your stomach, I guess is how I explain to patients. So it's nausea, vomiting, stomach cramps, diarrhea, fevers, chills. You lose a lot of volume through the diarrhea. You get dehydrated. You lose those important electrolytes. Can't keep anything down. The treatment is supportive, meaning that we usually do IV fluid, try to give back some potassium, magnesium, again, through the IV. It's an anti-nausea medication. And a lot of times, people just get sent home for bed rest and try to keep in as much fluid and replace all that loss as best they can. But
how long does it normally last?
It depends. I mean, it's longer than, a 24-hour bug, but, probably like 5 to 7 days. And
how long will I have to wait for it to pass through my system on my Alaska cruise, doctor? Here it is. Dave says, Mark, you'll have to wear a hazmat suit on your cruise. I know. I don't even want to go now. My God, doctor scared the hell out of me.
My question, if bleach is the only thing that kills the norovirus, and it's not good to put bleach on human skin, how do you fight it? What do you do?
Yeah, so, I wouldn't recommend taking pure bleach. You probably need to dilute it a little bit and wear gloves. So I always tell people when they go home and, to take some industrial strength bleach, dilute it a lot, put on gloves, and then wipe down all the surfaces. So yeah, you're right. You don't want to have direct skin contact with that.
What do you do on the cruise ship? How do you avoid norovirus?
Good question. I hope they have bleach.
You don't go on the cruise. Yeah.
Supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute.
That would be good.
1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that?
Yeah.
By injection inside or almost a cleaning, because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number along. So it'd be interesting to check that.
Yeah, maybe you should check on that, Doctor, before your next vital signs. Why don't you jump on some of Lord Master Trump's recommendations for the human health? You
He
can
recommends bleach for everything.
yeah, apparently it works. Yeah. Dr. Michael Daignault, you can find him in the emergency room. I wouldn't, I'm hoping maybe you're just passing by the emergency room. I wouldn't recommend getting into an emergency situation just to meet him. You'll find him here every other week. We do the vital signs breakdown with him. And we so appreciate your work. And you can find Dr. Michael Daignault across social media, DAIGNAULT, for those who are just listening and not seeing his name spelled there. Dr. Michael Daignault. Love our time together. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too. You will.
Check your vital signs again next time, only on the Mark Thompson Show.
Right on, everybody. Right on. Very, very cool. What a cool guy, huh? Like him. Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. Mark, can you bring some bleach into the studios on Fridays? Michael D. The doctor is outstanding, says Rick. He is outstanding.
God, what's the point of the Purell at every food station on the cruise ship then?
Well,
Come
I mean,
on.
you're not the point is that you're not just protecting against norovirus. That's the point. I mean, there are a lot of other things. There are a lot of other things that can be killed by Purell. That's the reason. It's like, why wash my hands if it won't take? Well, because there are a lot of other things that come, bacteria and other things that come on your hands that are taken off of your hands when you.
Yeah.
Anyway, why would anyone want to go on a cruise? Says Christopher.
Thank you. Like, right? Here comes the diarrhea.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
mRNA vaccines are the greatest advance in medicine history in the century. So stupid to fearmonger about them, says Just Give Me the Truth. Yeah, the fearmongering is complete around vaccines. What America lacks is natural immunity to stupidity, says commentator. I think we said, indeed. All right, Albert, I am in the middle of a Mark's Madness that I want to update if I could. Then I'm going to update the stock market, which, let me guess, it's fallen off a ledge.
Tank City.
Yeah, it is a scary time. And then we'll get into a conversation around economic policy, the tariff policy, and the Trump administration moving forward, having started a trade war. It's not just the markets, it's the ripple effects and the effects of this new adversarial posture, aggressive adversarial posture that this administration has taken to pretty much every ally that America used to have and every neighbor that America does have. And the effects are real. The effects will be both economic and military and cultural. I mean, there's an actual shift culturally. I mean, dramatic shift in just exchanges of information, academic information, visitation, tourism. All of these things are affected by the Mad King's reflexive movements. So quickly before I get to that, Albert, give me an update on what's happening, please, on Mark's Madness.
Of course, and just a note on Michael Shore. Michael Shore is in an airport right now, so he will try to get in, but if not, we have Jim, the great Jim Avila.
Okay, cool. So we'll have, one way or the other, we'll have some analysis. The update on Mark's Madness, Sweet 16. Tubin going down hard, if you'll pardon me.
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
That is the drop that's playing off against the classic Tubin, against what I think this could take it all. The I Blame You, right? That's Kim's...
I Blame You.
Right.
Yeah. Interestingly, I didn't pick it to go all the way. I picked AOC, Girl, Baby Girl. Don't
yeah.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Yeah.
Don't even play.
That is still red hot in the competition.
I think they might be in the same side of the bracket, so they might meet in the final four, but I don't think they'll reach it to the final. So it could be
we all have our thoughts, but right now, I Blame You dominant.
I Blame You
over the classic Tubin apology.
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Yeah, wow. Good stuff. Two more going. You can vote till midnight tonight, of course, in the post section of our YouTube channel. If you subscribe to the channel, I would love for you to subscribe. It's free. And it'll come up then in your feed, and you can just vote there. You don't have to go anywhere. It'll be right there in your feed. So, but if you don't subscribe, which is okay also, then you have to go to the channel and to the post.
And I think if you have your notifications on, it'll appear straight to whatever device you're on. It's like if you have it at YouTube on your phone, it'll automatically update you when a poll or if one of our videos are live. So
yeah, so grab YouTube, the app on your phone, subscribe to the show. Again, all that's free, and then hit the notification bell, and it will come right to you. All right, good times. Now,
The Mark Thompson
now
Show.
to the not so good times. Quickly, give me an update on the market, if you would. Albert, can you give me a live tap, a live feed? Can you tap in? Can you punch in? Can you patch in? Can you land? Can you parachute in? Can you somehow get me a live feed? This is what's happening in the American stock market as led and explained by the great Kim McAllister. Kim?
Dow Jones Industrial Average down 2,000 points. Is it? Yeah.
That's about 5
more.
percentage points, huh?
Yeah, down 2,000 points on Wall Street. This, of course, as Trump announces his new global tariffs. The NASDAQ has been down at least more than 900 points at some time today. S&P 500 has been down over 5% as well. So this is a bad one. This is a hit.
Well, and this is on the heels of the last drop. So even in that chart that you had up there a moment ago, you're looking at the market having lost valuations, I would think, in excess of 5. So you may be looking at like a 9% loss of valuation. I don't know what it'll all add up to, but somewhere in that category and in that neighborhood, yeah, there it is. So if you blow that up, you can see what I'm talking about. So if it dropped the Dow this week, it dropped 5% today, and it dropped, I want to say, was it about 4% yesterday, because it's 42 to 39. So, I mean, I think you're looking at like a, maybe looking at 8% drop off in market valuation. Anyway, this is, I think, what you have to look at it in the aggregate, We'll talk more about this, but this is there it is, the one-day change. NASDAQ down over 5%, S&P down over 5%, and the Dow down about 5%.
Yikes.
So that's just today. We'll talk more, and I will, again, explore this a bit with Jim Avila and Michael Shure in the next half hour. Right now, I want to get to, and I've talked a little bit about the tariffs and the problems with them. I've also talked about the ridiculous way in which Trump looks at tariffs and the American economy. And I've also spoken, and again, I mention this because I think we'll speak more about these things, the fact that Trump loves pronouncements. He loves to announce things. He likes big events, as you know. He likes to take charge of everything. He wants to take charge of everything from the American economy to the Kennedy Center, right? He just wants to be in charge. And these moves that he's making economically, while consistent with what he's always talked about, tariffs, even though he clearly misunderstands tariffs, he misunderstands tariffs history, he misunderstands world economies, he misunderstands the way in which America's economy is interconnected with all of these other economies. It's not a zero-sum game. It's not like they win, we lose. There are aspects and nuances to the world economies that can relate to that. But in general, you have to really be much more nuanced and much more targeted if you're going to explore any kind of tariffs to right any wrong, if you want to think of it that way. The idea of these across-the-board tariffs, which again, are computed completely haphazardly, chaotically. I mean, in the same way that they've done everything with this administration. Everything they do is chaotic. Everything they do is poorly thought out. It's half-baked, and it's cruel. I mean, everything from the deportations where there are tons of mistakes made and innocent people are deported, to the way in which they fire and decapitate entire government agencies and end up firing critical people that they're scrambling to rehire. It's a mess. These people are incompetents.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're doing, but they're doing everything on 10. They have it cranked up all the way, and yet they have no idea what they're doing.
RFK Jr. says about 20% of the Health and Human Services staff that were laid off, fired, have to be rehired.
Yeah, exactly.
Why did you fire them in the first place? Like you had no plan.
He admitted that it was a mistake.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. So, more on that again in the minutes to come. We do something on this show every Friday. We do it. It is a segment that features news from a state that we both love, and yet we find ourselves oddly puzzled by a lot of the things that go on there. We offer you 3 stories from this wonderful state, and you, at the end of this, will choose your favorite. This is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
A special shout out, if the kids still do the shout out.
Yeah.
I want to shout out many of you who send us Florida stories for this brief segment that we do on Fridays. A Floridian's worst nightmare, a battle between a dog and anyone? A gator. Yes, it was no match for the dog's owner. She made sure her beloved pet was coming home, pulled her dog Kona from the alligator's grip.
Arms? Look at her shoulders. She's been working out.
She's a tough lady, Kim.
Yeah.
Reminds me of when you rescued your son from the unforgiving waters of the Pacific.
I wasn't nearly as physically fit as her. Look at that lady.
Don't play down your physical prowess. This lady, I'll tell you, I'd like to see you two in an arm wrestling competition because I think you could take her. You could take her. A Florida man accused of DUI falls asleep in the Taco Bell drive-thru before waking up and hitting a parked car. It's the great Florida trifecta. Yeah, you hit the alcohol, then you fall asleep in the Taco Bell drive-thru, and then you hit a car on your way out. He's accused of DUI. Deputies said he fell asleep in a Taco Bell drive-thru. And sometimes the wait is long, Kim. You know, that's all I'm saying. What are you supposed to do? You close your eyes, you fall asleep.
Well, sleepy in the drive-thru.
After waking up, apparently Christopher Powell hit a parked car. That got enough attention that authorities were contacted. He was arrested for DUI. We do like to rate the booking photos of everyone, and James Powell in this case, looking right at us, he's got haunting dark eyes, and he looks like he could do a lot of damage.
He looks rather sinister in that.
Thank you. Sinister is the word I wanted.
That's the I'm going to come for you eye.
Yes, Kim is right. He does look like he like falling asleep and hitting a parked car is the least of what he's capable of.
I would rather him have looked like a sad sack, and he looks more menacing. I'm going to go with a 3 on that.
No. Yeah, all right. I'll give him a 5, but I'm with you on that. Yeah. And finally, a naked Florida man with beer and women's underwear is arrested for exposure at a crowded beach. This is a very hotly contested Friday Fabulous Florida. You're going to have trouble choosing a favorite. A lot of these feel very on brand for Florida.
Yeah, Albert has really done well this week.
He was arrested and taken to jail after he exposed himself while at a public beach. Martin LaBeouf, he's 60 years old.
Martin.
He's from Freeport. Deputies responding to reports of a man possibly engaged in sexual acts on the beach. They discovered this naked man
come on,
sitting between 2 umbrellas and multiple beer cans and a pair of women's underwear on him. There were no women with him. What they were saying is it's a crowded day at the beach, many families out and about, but fortunately 2 adults were the only ones who saw him expose himself, according to the sheriff. There he is in the booking photo. Kim, what do you rate him?
I'm giving him a 0.5.
He he looks like Joe Don Baker, said somebody, and that's true. He does look like Joe Don Baker.
He gives me the EBGBs.
He looks a little like
Google it.
Yeah, Google Joe Don Baker.
Google it.
And Google Louis Anderson. I think he looks like the comic Louis Anderson. Amy B is right about that.
Yeah.
He's a cross between Joe Don Baker and Louis Anderson.
At least, you know, you look at this guy and you could see what he's accused of. You can totally picture that. Like, there's no, yep, that sounds about right.
That is true. Very, very, very funny.
I mean, I hate to convict just based on a photo, but you know.
Well, that does it for us. Let's just pick a favorite. We have to pick a favorite. It's in the bylaws of the show. Quickly, I'll mention what you've heard. A naked Florida man with beer, women's underwear, arrested for exposure to crowded beach. A man accused of DUI. He fell asleep in Taco Bell, and then when he woke up, he hit a parked car. And finally, the Tampa dog owner prying open the jaws of a gator to save her pet from attack. You've got to pick a favorite. Kim, please, quickly.
Well, I do enjoy the sleepy Taco Bell saga. I'm going with beefy buff dog mom. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I agree. Very strong choice. I agree. I have to go with the lady who pried the jaws of the gator open to get her little Kona out of the grasp of
love.
That really is love. And Albert, what was the vote in the chat, please?
Everybody loves the pet savior. I think it's an easy vote for that. So I think we're all gonna go there for the one prying the dog out of the jaws.
All right, congratulations to Kona and Kona's owner. Yes, and that is Friday Fabulous Florida for today.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Thank you for being here, everyone. We reviewed a little bit of what's happening in the stock markets, a little bit in Trump land, but now it's a chance to review the week in politics, which has been punctuated by a number of things, not just the tariffs, although the tariffs certainly are front and center at this moment. We do it with two distinguished journalists. One guy has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know. He's Michael Shure, everyone. Joins us from an airport, is what I'm told. Somewhere. Thank you. Thank you, sir. And,
happy to be here, Mark.
The other is the Murrow Award-winning, Emmy Award-winning, former White House correspondent at ABC News. He's Jim Avila. Yeah, hi, Jim.
Hi, Jim. You from the freeway.
Oh, from the freeway. Well, you'll be in and out, but hopefully we'll be able to make out enough of what you're saying that you get your point across. Look, the end of, and I might mute Jim's mic when he's not on, just because it's popping in and out a little bit. Michael and Jim, the tariffs have taken the news because of the Titanic effect, and Titanic might be the right word. I mean, the disastrous effect that it's had on the American economy already. We're just talking about the markets right now. I'm not even talking about the repercussions beyond that, but also the world economy. And I wonder, in an environment, I was mentioning this last hour, that already involves Trump sort of seizing this position as the new adversary to all of our allies and the new friend to Russia and our sort of traditional adversaries. I wonder how you square this and how this will survive politically. In other words, do you think Congress is going to get this memo? There was already the Senate vote, as you know, Michael and Jim. What do you think might happen to push back on some of this Trump agenda when it comes to tariffs?
Well, the only thing that can happen, Mark, is that the Congress does get the memo. I spoke to a voter in New Hampshire that I remember. You remember some of these people. You speak to so many of them, and he said to me that he was voting for Trump, even though he doesn't like the America First stuff, because, and I think he said it with these exact words, it pits the world against us whenever you make yourself seem and you announce yourself as bigger. He just couldn't vote for Harris. And when I talked to him, or I guess at that time it was Biden, when I talked to him about it, he said that was the only thing that gave him pause about Trump. And, I, of course, just bit my tongue and went through that interview, because there are many things to give you pause. But that's exactly that guy. I've thought of him several times in the past 75 days, thinking about this is exactly what he presaged and what gave him pause. And it's once Biden was off the ticket. And I don't remember his reasons for not liking Biden. But that said, it's really, I think it's in the hands of Congress and it's the hands of Republicans like him to perhaps, speak up in Congress. I don't think there's any reason that anyone watching this or sitting next to you at dinner or on an airplane should have any confidence that that's going to happen. But that would be the mechanism.
Jim, there's a political price to be paid for this, isn't there? I mean, there's this is something that is shocking not only the markets, but I think a lot of Americans.
Well, I think what we're seeing is already Donald Trump losing popularity because of this. I think the what's going to happen in the long term and by the midterms, the elections in 2 years or a year and a half, is really still up for grabs. I think many Republicans and some independents are waiting to see how this turns out. Now, if this turns out that then that's not going to be too much of an issue. What's going to be an issue is if the prices continue to go up, if as predicted, car prices go up thousands of dollars, groceries go up hundreds of dollars, then I think that's going to be a real problem for Donald Trump, who ran as the economic wizard. And he may be proving that he's not. So we'll have to see how that works out. Many of us don't really understand, and many of the public don't understand this tariff business. What they're waiting to see is how it really affects their pocketbook. When that happens, and then over the next few months, that's when the fallout is really going to be for Donald Trump.
Yeah, this is interesting. I don't know. Of course, I have a very bleak view of things generally, and I think this is a guy and a group of people who are going to do everything they can to retain power. So I'm not even, presuming a lot of things that are in presumption when it comes to 4 years from now, et cetera. But it is weird in 2 months how he's done a lot of damage politically, I would think, Michael Shure, to his party. I mean, you saw it already how the appeal of Elon Musk has worn off in that Wisconsin Supreme Court election. I think there is, to Jim's point, there'll be a bill to be paid politically for some of this.
One would assume he hasn't paid bills politically very often. He did in 2020 and just barely, and he doesn't think he had to. So I don't. The predictive analysis, this is going to come back to haunt him. Things don't generally. But you would expect that a lot of the rank and file Republicans that voted just the party line this time, who were not part of the MAGA crowd, but didn't want to vote for Kamala Harris, that those are the people that are probably least happy about this, and the ones that would probably leave the reservation were it to happen again in terms of Trump or somebody who's a Trump acolyte running again in a primary against someone who is a traditional Republican who doesn't have Trump's allure and fame within the party. But again, we're going to have to wait a little while to see that. It's a year and a half till the congressional elections, and then it's going to be 2.5 years or 3.5 years until we vote for a president. So we need a little bit of patience here, but Republicans don't necessarily have to have that. Certainly, if they have trouble in the next election, I don't think those elections in Florida were bellwethers, but I do think they matter. That Trump had his lead cut into in 2 special elections, House elections in very red districts. I think it matters, but I also think that the excitable Trump voters who come out every 4 years were not necessarily taking part in a congressional election. I should mention too that I don't have a ton of time, but I know
none of us do, Michael. You mean they're at the airport?
No, they're wheeling me off now, Mark.
Okay, very well. I appreciate that you.
But I do want to talk about one important thing. I'm sort of I don't mean to do this, but I don't want to get off without being part of the conversation about Cory Booker's filibuster, which you may or may not have already talked about on the show. I think these things are very important. People are constantly asking me, and I'm not, in Congress. I'm not living in Washington, but I think what can we? Just because I know a little bit about politics, what can they do? What can we do? Well, Cory Booker showed that you can do something. You can have a conversation to light a fire under people, and which I think he did successfully with a 25-hour filibuster. Of course, the moment is gone now, but I do think when you hear the changing demographic of how people watch and get this stuff, that at one time or another, 375 million people dipped into, and we're a country of fewer than that. There were that many views on TikTok for this thing, and I think that's those are the people that are paying attention as well, obviously. So I don't want to sort of understate how important those things are. They don't mean anything legislatively, but they can tell you where the conversation has to go, where the pushback has to come from.
Well, he did effectively seize that news cycle, which was something that the Democrats have not really been able to do, and he did it with eloquence, and it was quite extraordinary.
Do you have me still? Sorry.
Yeah, we have your audio. Well, I'm so glad you brought it up.
Do you still see me, guys?
I see you. Yeah,
we
do. Yes.
But
so we have you for what? 2 more minutes, or how much longer do we have you? Any idea?
Sorry,
he can't hear it. He can't hear me. Okay. Let me turn to you, Jim, because something that's happening in Washington this week is the continued chaos associated with all of the different voices that have Trump's ears. One of them is Laura Loomer, who was making news on the campaign trail with Trump. She's a hard right conspiracy theorist, and those now are the sort of the people who populate the Oval Office and the White House in pretty large numbers these days. And so Loomer did a loyalty test of sorts on members of the NSA, and I guess the National Security Agency has people who she feels are not loyal enough to Trump. And he, on her advice, dumped a handful of people, high-level officials at the NSA. Thoughts, Jim?
Yeah, I was talking to. Yeah, do you hear me or no? Here we go.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I was talking to a relative, an uncle who lives in Orange County, and while he's Latino, he voted for Trump. And all this chaos has him looking at me and saying, "What did I do?" Things like Trump saying that he's going to go for a third term, for the chaos that is going on now with the tariff situation. I think it is shaking up some of the Republican voters. Some people who have been Republican voters for a long time, who held their nose and voted for Trump, and now are regretting it. So, yes, these I will characterize them as crazy things Donald Trump is doing and saying does have an effect on even his supporters, much less the independents and galvanizing Democrats. We talk about Cory Booker. Along with Cory Booker is the public who is showing up.
I guess you're talking about public protests. Is that what you're speaking of? You're in and out, Jim.
But they're not.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
So.
Yes, sadly, we're losing your signal a little bit. But you were saying the public is showing up in protest form. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, they're showing up in protest form in town halls, and while the Republicans try to write them off as left-wing lunatics and plants, it doesn't appear that way, because they also are appearing at Democratic town halls. People are energized right now, and they have to. The question is whether or not they'll continue to be energized through the midterms, and if Trump will continue to do sort of the crazy things that he is doing now.
The fallout from that use of Signal, the app that is in no way secure, that has clearly been used many, many times. It turns out they've used it over 20 times for various communications of the sort that we saw. That was the Pete Hegseth communication to that whole crew. I mean, everyone essentially in the Trump cabinet was in that entire list, plus the editor of The Atlantic. So now there is an investigation into the use of Signal. It's interesting, though, that the blame hasn't really stuck to anyone. And what I was reading, Jim Avila, is that Trump doesn't want to give the left, as he puts it, a victory by firing, for example, Mike Waltz, who had put together that list of people on Signal. Can you speak to the sort of, he really circles the wagons, the political wagons, around situations like this. He doesn't want to ever apologize or assign blame.
Yeah, that's sort of his MO. He doesn't want to apologize or admit that he did something wrong or that he picked the wrong person. You know, his first term was rife with this type of thing where he had to dismiss people that he built up as the best people. And then he had to fire the Secretary of State and others that he didn't get along with. And I think he's really trying to avoid that in the second term, even though Mike Waltz doesn't look like he's in big trouble. Trump put the blame on him and is trying to deflect the blame from his defense secretary and wants to make it look like it is only the national security guy whose fault it was.
So as you game this out, Jim, I don't see Trump backing off from a policy perspective on any of these deportations. He seems as though he's very happy leaning in, even as they've made some really massive screw-ups. It's a cruel policy to begin with. It hasn't been limited to those people who are guilty of violent crimes. And, you know, this whole idea that we're going to start with people who are guilty of violent crimes, I mean, clearly it's not that. And it's extended to people who are protesting peacefully on behalf of Palestinians. It's going to include activists of all sorts, and you can see how green card holders, those who are here legally, all of them become vulnerable to this very aggressive policy of deportation.
Yeah, he's not doing what he said he was going to do, which was go after criminals. And in fact, most of the people that he's deporting, or many of the people he's deporting, are not criminals in any way and have no criminal record. We've seen that with the mistake he made sending that man to El Salvador, who had no criminal record. So it's, you know, the problem though is, I have to say, even though I'm against all of this deportation stuff, except for people who are criminals, the problem is that the American people don't seem to, this seems to be still his most popular of policies. And I think it's because people still believe it's not going to happen to me. Well, folks, it could happen to you. I mean, right now, you know, I was born in this country. My parents were born in this country. But because I have an Hispanic name, I carry my passport now. You know, because I live in San Diego. It's that crazy, you know, and it's that threatening to people. So, you know,
and that's deliberate though, Jim Avila, isn't it?
Oh yeah, they're hoping, you know, there is some self-deportation going on, and what he's hoping, and what Stephen Miller, of course, who is the architect of all this crap, is hoping is that people will in fact leave the country who have Latino surnames, and anybody who's an immigrant, everybody has a green card holder. I mean, these folks who merely spoke up against the massive killing that was going on in Gaza, those who spoke up about that are getting deported if they're green card holders. You know, that it just goes against what this country is about. And you know, they're using everything they can to get to scare people and to make this a you know, when he says make America great again, what he means is make America white again.
Well, it's a full court press because they've gone after immigrants, they've gone after activists, they've gone after media, and they've gone after academic institutions. I mean, the pulling back of funding that has both been threatened and they've actually done it in the case, right, of Columbia. And I want to say that they're a handful too. University of Pennsylvania, I think, is one of them, and Harvard is the other. And there's really the sort of Damocles over Harvard. Now, Harvard's a rich institution. The others are rich institutions as well, but part of their wealth comes from the government. So now there's sort of been a list of new demands that Harvard University has to eliminate its diversity, equity, and inclusion program. They have to ban mass protesters from campus demonstrations. If they want federal funding, the White House wants those concessions immediately.
And it's not just the Ivies either, Mark. UC San Diego down here is losing $500 million in funding from the government in research because it's a big research institute, and Trump has no and the Doge folks have no respect for research or for science, and they're just cutting it left and right. UCLA, USC are both in big trouble because of what's going on with the Trump and the Doge folks, with their lack of respect for institutions, and not to mention big.
I missed that. Not to mention what, Jim? Could you repeat that, please?
But who are losing clients because of Trump being on the attack for them.
Oh, that's law firms you're talking about. Yeah, you dropped out. Yeah,
Yeah.
The fight against these law firms is extraordinary, and the way that they are rolling over, I think, is extraordinary. I mean, I just think that it's there. I understand being attacked in ways that are unprecedented, but by the same token, the surrender and pre-surrender is scary, you know. And we've seen the same thing on the media side. So, and I think it will affect even platforms like this eventually. I mean, I worry about independent platforms being intimidated. You know, we depend on an algorithm to keep us in people's feed, to keep us seen, and YouTube can play that down. They can, any kind of dissenting voices can be played down. We've already seen a drop off substantially in revenue. So these are all things that really linger as real threats, and the federal government has real power, Jim, and they are exercising it, and this flex is real, you know.
It is, and I don't always share your pessimistic view of where our country is. I'm beginning to go over to your side.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say it's being borne out, at least in the short term. Jim, love our time with you, even if you're on the road. Your thoughts are always so valuable. So thank you. I look forward to next week as well. And I think I'm seeing you for lunch today, which is very exciting.
Yes, that's why I'm driving on the road right now.
All right. Jim Avila, everybody. Thanks, Jim. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
It is our Friday show. Glad you can make it. We're a live show. We're on from 2 to 4 in the East and 11 to 1 in the West. And all through this great month, we've been playing Mark's Madness, which is something we do on the show. We've done it for years now. We pit one drop against another drop.
Now, Mark's Madness.
Yes.
I can't believe it.
And the commissioner of Mark's Madness is Albert. And Albert, what happened in the first hour with the drops that were? I believe there was kind of a walkover in the first hour, is what I was seeing.
Yeah, and it's continued to stay the same way with Kim's drop. Actually, Kim's probably one half of the favorites.
Oh yeah,
with AOC Baby Girl. I Blame You is the leading.
I Blame You is
is
crushing right now. The classic tube and apology. So it's time for the second offering, because as I understand it, there'll be two others playing off against each other, Albert, and they are I don't have my because I don't have my computer. Apparently, the audio from the computer has been compromised in some way. You don't hear this, right? Am I?
No,
we're not hearing any of that.
Yeah. Okay. So, so I will tell you the two that will go up against each other this hour.
Sayonara, sucker.
Yeah.
Well, we heard that. Yeah, sayonara.
Yeah, and
Have you ever seen anything like this?
Yes. So you're gonna vote for either
Sayonara, sucker.
or.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
All right, it's sayonara, sucker, or ever seen anything. So again, go to our YouTube channel. You'll vote in the post section for either
Sayonara, sucker.
or.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
All right, so that voting goes on until midnight tonight, and you can see where the voting is as you make your choice. You don't have to have a bracket to vote, right? Most people who vote don't have a bracket, but your vote will determine the future for so many. So please get on there and vote.
And a quick before, I'm sure we could fit into Kim's news here before Michael Snyder.
Oh,
but,
definitely will fit in. Yeah.
Michael Snyder went 0 for 2 last night. So.
Oh no, Snyder out of he was top of the leaderboard, but now Matt Rapanich has regained the lead on the leaderboard. We're showing you in Mark's Madness. Vanessa Pacheco right behind Matt Rapanich.
Nice.
In the number 2 position. Then there's Travis and Michael and Chris and Vivian and Daniel, a former winner. And then Michael Snyder. Wow. It's a real tough one. Going to come down to the wire. This is the best of the best who are competing. The Sweet 16. This is when it all happens, Kim. You understand?
Why are you yelling?
It's when the best handicappers come together, and we'll see who makes it. What's interesting about this, I will say, Albert, is when you look at who is being, it looks to me like there are a couple of people who've picked I Bet My Lunch, I Blame You, Sayonara, AOC. So you've got, to win it all, those are the drops that those people have picked. So as long as those drops are alive, then those people are alive, right?
Yeah, like I have Going Back to Texas winning it all, and the fact that it won last night really helped me out. But I'm still pretty low on the leaderboards here.
Where am I, Albert? I have to inflict the pain of and humiliation. Oh my God!
Right here, 14 and 6.
Keep scrolling.
Keep scrolling.
14 and 6, right there under Sally Martinez. Yeah, I've got AOC going all the way also. But I don't know. I feel like I Blame You could do some damage. We'll have to see. I don't know. Could be.
I Blame You.
Yeah, or I don't.
Oh, girl, baby girl, don't even play.
That's pretty good too. So.
Didn't she say that on the House floor?
Yeah, she said it. She said it in response to Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was smack talking her.
You pretty much love that.
Yeah, she said, Burr, you want to get into this, baby? Don't even play, because I will own you. I'm from New York, baby. We got people, we eat people like you for lunch. Yeah. All right, Kim's news, and then the great Michael Snyder, Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com and Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. Stocks are plummeting for a second. We won't celebrate that. Second day in a row on Wall Street. Markets taking a pounding after China retaliated with new tariffs on U.S. goods. But President Trump says these tariffs imposed on other countries are having the desired effect, and that he is now open to negotiations.
Now, that's what he wants. He wants all of them to come to him and beg. This is all a play. It's an ego play.
Bend the knee and bow to me.
Yeah.
Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, Trump said his initial tariff plan is over and he is watching it settle in. He said every country has called, every country asking to cut a trade deal with the United States to avoid these tariffs. Trump says he's seen an uptick in plans to bring manufacturing plants back to the United States. He also pointed at the chairman of the Federal Reserve, saying he needs to quit playing politics and lower interest rates. In a post on the old Truth Social, I blame you. Trump said it would be the perfect time for Jerome Powell to cut rates. The president said Powell is always late to lower rates, but that he could change his image by doing so now. Trump added egg prices are down, inflation is down, and jobs are up.
Oh my God! This guy Powell he's Republican holdover from through the Biden administration, and Biden, of course, being an institutionalist, didn't want to touch Powell, which is fine. But I also think that supposedly the Fed is supposed to be independent of political wins. But it's very funny because Trump is all about politics, only about politics. He wants to be tougher on blue states than red states. He wants only to view things through the prism of politics. So when he says, you got to put politics aside and make it, it's like the richest thing you could possibly hear from Donald Trump. The reality is this is a wildly inflationary economic policy. It's a wildly chaotic and disorganized policy. There is no coherence to it. It is utter madness, and it is all designed just to puff him up, have people in the form of diplomats and others, leaders of countries, coming to him asking for relief, economic relief. It's all a play into his megalomania. And really, look at this tariff policy and show me coherence. There is nothing. And I played for you, economist after economist. On this channel, I played the leading economic minds in the world I have shared with you here, and they all agree there is absolutely no sense to this. This is insanely destructive. So the only reason he's doing it is because I believe on some level he wants that ego fed. He wants the power. It's a flex. It's the most destructive flex imaginable. And he's got this thing in his head about tariffs that he's had for a long time. He totally misunderstands how they work. But the idea that he could then ask the feds to lower interest rates into the teeth of what will be a wildly inflationary policy, it's lunacy on top of lunacy. So you're going into an incredibly inflationary period and you want to lower the price of money? So you want more money injected into the system? That would just, I mean, this just proves the guy is, when it comes to economic policy and pretty much any other public policy for that matter, the man knows nothing.
I feel like this picture, and I love this picture, Albert, with Trump and the reciprocal tariffs chart. It is this era's mission accomplished picture. Remember when Bush showed up on the aircraft carrier with the mission accomplished behind him, and we were nowhere near mission accomplished? That's the picture of this era with the reciprocal tariff chart.
What I love about this chart also is you can see in the number 3 position, it goes China, European Union, Vietnam. Vietnam with a 46% tariff. And he's saying, if you look in the left column, that they're charging the United States 90%. Like that's the tariff that's already charged to the U.S. That is absurd. China is where we get all of our stuff because it's low cost, and the low cost of labor has enabled all of these things to be low cost. And we are in a consumer economy, as you know, and so as probably the world's leading consumer economy, we buy a bunch of stuff from Vietnam wildly discounted because of the discounted cost of labor there compared to much of the developed world. So what he's seeing is that we buy stuff there more than they buy from us, and that's a trade deficit, is the way he's seeing it. But Vietnam couldn't possibly buy as much stuff from us as we buy from them. Why? Because they're a fraction of the size, and they make no money. And people are making $7 a month in Vietnam. How are they supposed to buy from the United States anything?
Why are you yelling?
So what you are seeing is Vietnam having a tax levied upon their goods that is based on a completely false computation of the way he looks at the imbalance of trade. I'll shut up now, but it is so absurd that it makes my head explode.
Why are you yelling?
So, and thank you. Yeah, thank you, Dakota Blue Skies, for a $20 super sticker. And I appreciate it very, very much. And a big shout out, in fact.
Shout out.
Thank you, Dakota Blue Skies.
Speaking of China, they are hitting back at the United States with 34% tariffs on all goods imported from America starting April 10th. The country's finance ministry announcing the move today after, of course, President Trump raised the tariffs on China Wednesday to 54%. Beijing calling for Washington to cancel the tariffs and resolve the differences through consultation in a respectful manner. California Governor Gavin Newsom calling for countries to exempt goods from California from these tariffs. This comes 2 days after the president announced these global tariffs that have led to some countries, like China, implementing reciprocal tariffs. Governor Newsom said he has directed his administration to look into new trade opportunities. In a post on X, Newsom noting California makes up 14% of the U.S. GDP and is the 5th largest economy in the world. He says California is not scared to use its market power to fight back against what he called the largest tax hike of our lifetime.
He's right about that. It is the largest tax hike of our lifetime. And I'm sure he'd like a shirt that, you know those shirts that say I'm with stupid? He'd like a shirt that says I'm not with stupid. California, not with stupid. I mean, it's a very troubling thing because a lot of California's exports will be affected by these reciprocal tariffs that are going into place now.
New development in the deportation cases. The U.S. government is being ordered to return a man mistakenly deported to El Salvador last month. The Trump administration said it was an error when Abrego Garcia was deported to El Salvador after being arrested. The Salvadoran national was accused of being a member of the MS-13 gang. His attorneys deny that allegation, and in 2019, he was granted protected status. The judge ordered the government to return Garcia to the United States no later than 11:59 p.m. Monday. We'll see how that goes. President Trump signing an executive order to keep TikTok running in the United States for another 75 days. Chinese-based ByteDance was originally granted an extension from its original January deadline to divest or face a permanent U.S. ban. In a post on good old Truth Social, Trump said a ton of progress has been made, but the deal to sell the social media platform to a U.S. buyer needs some more work. An American steel manufacturer believes President Trump's, another story, reciprocal tariffs will benefit that industry. The head of Capone Iron Corporation told News Nation it's a step in the right direction. He thinks the move will help American companies deal with foreign competitors. Well,
there have been targeted tariffs in the area of steel before in America, so that's not wrong. But these aren't targeted tariffs. These are across-the-board tariffs. They have no targeting associated with them. So this guy, I'm sure his industry will benefit. You know, I mean, but I lament all the things that will be used in the process of construction and in production of other products that will all have their prices driven up because component parts of everything are going to be parts of these tariffs and the reciprocal tariffs.
Today, fencing is going up around the White House ahead of a weekend protest in Washington, D.C. About 10,000 people are expected for a rally at the Washington Monument. Starts at noon Eastern tomorrow. The protest is part of a nationwide day of action against the Trump administration, organized by a group called Hands Off 2025. First Lady Melania Trump announcing yesterday the White House garden tour scheduled for tomorrow have been moved to Sunday because of all the protests. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says recent cuts of the Department of Health and Human Services could be reversed. He told reporters he expects about 20% of recently fired employees to be reinstated, as well as some programs. The department made wide-scale cuts to its staff at the direction of Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. Oopsies, looks like not all those people should have been let go. Meanwhile, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is set to take off on a health tour around the United States to make America healthy again. The Trump administration is demanding Harvard University change certain policies, DEI policies among them, in order to continue receiving federal funding. They've opened a review into the Ivy League school over billions of dollars in contracts and grants. The demands similar to those the Trump administration asked of Columbia, including banning masks. You can't have masked protesters or apparently masks for COVID. I don't know. They've also demanded more accountability against student groups and reforming the university's leadership and admissions and hirings practices.
Well, they don't want masks for obvious reasons. If there are protesters there and the activism that we've seen and the conflicts that we've seen, they want to be able to identify those involved. So, I mean, I'm not, I actually think that, you know, parts of that policy might make sense, but what you're seeing is, you're seeing shakedowns. You're seeing, they're shaking down academic institutions, they're shaking down legal institutions. And again, these are policy changes that you can press for without holding this sort of Damocles over them when it comes to federal funding. But I make no mistake about it, I don't agree with everything they're asking them to do. But on the mask thing, I get it. You don't want mask protesters to be able to perpetuate violence or perpetrate violence. The problem with this is we're seeing such an aggressive policy of rounding people up, of arresting and deporting people who are involved in this, that I can almost understand why they want to be masked. I mean, you're seeing the overreach of the state, you know, and this poor man who was deported in this Venezuelan sweep and now he's in El Salvador, and he's not the only one. I mean, I understand he's the only one we're talking about. There were 2 others who also probably don't have any gang ties. So you're seeing protesters, PhD candidates, all involved in these protests on campus, and so I see this whole thing as tragic, the way in which they are damping down free speech in America. These people should have a right to protest and peaceful protest, even with masks, if you will, I think should be permitted. But I understand the problem is that these things teeter over and have teetered over into violence. And when that happens, then you're thinking, hey, I need to identify these people. And at that time, I think there are ways from a law enforcement standpoint to then declare this a different situation in which we need this entire area cleared out and there can be no more masks right now. I'm kind of thinking it through in the moment, but I really feel as though that's what they're trying to ensure against. But again, this administration has been so aggressive and so reckless in their deportations and their plucking of all these activists up and out that I can understand why people would wear masks.
In the San Francisco Bay Area, where Chevron is headquartered, come layoffs, hundreds out of a job. Chevron cutting about 600 jobs at its former headquarters in the region. Officials say layoffs are part of Chevron's efforts to streamline organizational structure and improve operational efficiency. Those layoffs start in June. Big ol' party in Santa Barbara, massive, at the nation's #1 party school. It's called Deltopia. It's an unsanctioned, unpermitted, massive gathering of students returning after spring break to UC Santa Barbara. County recreation areas, including beaches, will be shut down over the weekend in Isla Vista. Police have distributed 900 boxes of Narcan around the city in anticipation of 911 calls. Many of them are expected to be drug-related. They've closed down Heart House, all the locations, this restaurant, less than 3 years after opening. It was a plant-based burger chain owned by comedian Kevin Hart, and it officially shut down this week.
That's too bad. I was really, I always root for plant-based stuff to do well, but man, Kevin Hart couldn't make it work. I mean, who can make it work?
No. 7 tigers are being seized from a man's property in Nevada. Nye County authorities seized the cats Wednesday in Pahrump, citing concerns about the animals' living conditions and permitting issues as well. The owner of the tigers, Carl Mitchell, was taken into custody for allegedly resisting arrest. Authorities say he did not have the correct special conditions animal permit for keeping these tigers. Mitchell claims he rescued the tigers from the infamous star of the Tiger King series, Joe Exotic, and he says he has the right to keep them because they are his emotional support animals.
This is I'll just give you a quick minute or less on this. I recommended a documentary to you before that I think you, if you care about this issue or just would be interested in or intrigued by this issue, might enjoy. It's called The Elephant in the Living Room. The Elephant in the Living Room. It is about people who take these exotic animals and try to work them into their home, or they keep them in cages out back, or however it works. And it is a horror show, okay? It should not be allowed. These creatures languish in conditions that are awful, and they are underfed, or they are housed in these small structures. It's terrible. And so I would... And then you can see everything that in this movie now, probably 15 years old or, a dozen years old, but you can see all of the things that can happen. And you also see the crazies that Kim is talking about, like they're my emotional support animals and they're the whatever. I couldn't agree more with taking these creatures back from these horrifying situations that they find themselves in.
This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. It's been the kind of week, Mark, that I'm thinking I'm going to take my last bottle of Why Are You Yelling Red, and I'm going to be drinking it this evening. Perhaps all of it. I don't know. If you don't like the red, there's also the Hey, Which One of You is Mark Thompson Pinot Grigio, which is amazing as well. You see pictures of the vineyard being shown right now out at Tenuta in Livermore. There is a patch that is dedicated to Mark Thompson. It is the red varietal. It's the Mark Thompson vineyard at Tenuta Vineyards. They harvest it every year.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a special little plot that is actually has signage and everything.
Oh,
That's
wow.
where they grow the Mark Thompson wine. And it's amazing. I'm telling you.
Hey,
the
which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
It's red. Hey, which one of you? Or actually, it's a Why Are You Yelling Red is so good.
Oh.
And
Why are you yelling?
you
Yeah.
can see how beautiful the winery is. You can go out for tastings. They're open most weekends. Call to book an appointment. And if you use ye old phrase that pays, which is
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Yeah.
it's an immediate 10% off. Boom. You get
I
your
love it.
wine. You get a discount. If you buy a case of it, they may even give you a bigger discount.
Wow.
I know.
The possibilities are
Hey,
real.
which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Yeah, go for it. I think there it is. Nancy Tenuta, the winemaker and owner. They do a bunch of innovative things when it comes to the way in which they make the wine there. You'll really be impressed. This is a boutique winery, Tenuta Vineyards. We've loved them since we were on the radio, and now they've come with us over here to YouTube. TENUTA. For those who are just listening and not seeing, and they are in the San Francisco Bay Area. And if you are in the Bay Area, this is the Livermore Valley. You know, a lot of people go to the Napa Valley. That's very famous, Napa Sonoma.
Isn't that where they make auto parts in Napa?
You got, and then this is the East Bay in Livermore. It's this wondrous place, which is a hidden jewel. So you should check them out if you're going to the Bay Area at all. It's Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. You can call them or email them, rich@tenutavineyard.com for a tasting room reservations, shipping needs. You can get everything. There are discounts of all sorts, but you definitely can get your big discount with the use of the phrase that pays, which is
Smash it with your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod. Yeah.
925-699-4576, the phone number.
Get on it. Get on it.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. We're in the middle of Mark's Madness, and now bring him on. He is someone who was atop the leaderboard in Mark's Madness for a while, for an instant. He writes about music and movies. We have little time for him today. I'm sorry, Michael, but we are bringing you on with you come and go in a rainbow. It is Michael Snyder, everyone, the Culture Blaster. And Michael, welcome to the madness, sir.
Happy to be here. And of course, you have little time for me. I'm the period at the end of the week on the Mark Thompson Show. But I want to say it's me, the third member of the Justice League of Michaels on the Thompson Show. There's Dr. Michael, there's Politics Michael, and yours truly, Culture Blast Michael.
Yes.
And speaking of Justice Leagues, I am happy to welcome a sponsor to Culture Blast.
I love a sponsor.
On the Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, go for it.
It's the Comic Book Boys. And anybody who knows me is aware that I have had a lifelong passion for comic books and graphic novels that led me to amass an enormous collection of comics up in San Francisco. And since I commute from SF to Los Angeles so much, I hit a point where I wanted to lighten my load and monetize some of my pristine collections. And at the suggestion of a friend and a little research, I reached out to the Comic Book Boys, who have a warehouse headquarters in Southern California. They're equipped to assess the value of individual comics and entire collections, buy collections outright, or sell them, and then do that on consignment. So if you're in Southern California, you can bring your comics to them.
Oh, that's cool.
Or arrange for them to look over what you have. And if you've got a big enough number of comic books and you're as far away as Northern California or even Arizona or Nevada, they can send someone with a U-Haul to transport your collection to their warehouse, which is what they did for me. I dealt with the charming and informative Chris, who's one of the boys, and he was on top of everything. These guys are fans and collectors themselves. I always felt I was in good hands, and I was quite satisfied with the outcome. If you're interested in seeing if they can help you with your collection, check them out at www.cbbauctions.com.
cbbauctions.com. You don't need to say the www part anymore. cbbauctions.com. Now, I have, and I've never told you this before.
Yeah.
I have a 1940s Batman comic. Should I try to? What do you think?
Oh, I think that's definitely a great idea. I'll tell you what.
I also have a Fantastic Four from where is my Fantastic Four from? The 60s.
What? It's a lot of it is about condition, but let me just say the one real relic in my collection, and then we'll have to move on to film reviews and such.
Yeah.
Was the number 6 issue of World's Finest Comics, which is a DC comic that in later years featured team-ups between Batman and Superman, but originally it was a Batman story, a Superman story, etc. 1942. I got it when I was a kid.
Wow.
But it had turned to near sand. And
because the condition was, yeah.
But as bad as the condition was, it's an antique, and guess what? They got some decent money for it.
That's terrific. Now, my Nancy comics, are they worth anything?
It depends. There are Ernie Bushmiller fanatics.
I love Nancy. I like Nancy.
You seem more like a Sluggo guy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anyway, comic book boys, welcome. I hope they're giving you some money because you deserve some money.
They did right by me with my collection, and I'll explain a little more down the road. We got them for another couple of weeks. We'll see how that goes.
All right. Good stuff. Comic book boys.
So let's start with the film reviews. We have so many of them. Let's make this a little more conversational, a little more brevity to the reviews, because I just feel like there's so much I want to get to.
I love it.
From Jared Hess, who directed Napoleon Dynamite, which I loved, to the moon.
Right.
And Too Many Cooks Spoiled the Intellectual Property Quintet of Screenwriters comes yet another cinematic cash grab based on a video game. It's a Minecraft movie, which is a family-friendly adventure fantasy film based on Minecraft, a video game that I've never played, of course, and is purportedly about the magic of imagination.
Oh.
Ah, yes, imagination, which is in short supply when studios are so eager to greenlight pricey movies based on video games and toys.
So you're saying there's an irony in it already?
Yeah. You want to develop original content? Go somewhere else, because the studios love this stuff. So, a Minecraft movie is about 4 people who are sucked through a portal into the overworld, where they need to use their wits and creativity to find their way back to the real world. I like this movie a lot more when it was called Jumanji, which in its first version, the remake, the sequel to the remake, was about a magical video game, not based on a video game. So the 2 most familiar actors in a Minecraft movie are Jason Momoa. We love Aquaman, and he's going to be actually Lobo in the DC reboot overseen by James Gunn. Here he plays a video game champ from the 80s who's the eldest of the 4 unfortunates drawn into the overworld. And we also get Jack Black as Steve, a guy that's been stuck there for years and kind of knows the lay of the, digital land. And that's Jack Black, who played the avatar of one of the 4 kids magically transported into the video game remake in Jumanji. The creativity is off the charts here. So Black and Momoa expend a lot of effort to be funny and engaging in a Minecraft movie. Jennifer Coolidge, Matt Berry, and Jermaine Clement are among the supporting players. Love them all. And director Hess is comfortable with kind of quirky characters and circumstances, as evidenced by Napoleon Dynamite. But it's kind of a mess. The barrage of video game visuals quickly becomes numbing. The humor is more miss than hit. And the exploitive, derivative nature of the whole enterprise brought to mind the very scathing and hilarious first episode of the new TV series, The Studio, with Seth Rogen. And it involves the crass attempt this episode to build a blockbuster franchise around a famous advertising mascot, the Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, yeah.
No, you mean, oh, yeah. Anyway.
The one who busts through the wall.
Yeah, right. It's not quite Barbie or the Super Mario Brothers, or actually a movie made from a video game that I thought was great, Dungeons & Dragons, the recent one. So more about the studio later if we have time. As for a Minecraft movie, my final words are the ones I hope to see as I watched it. Game over.
Anyway, didn't love it.
No, it's in theaters. Not
All
that
right,
interesting.
moving on.
Okay, so let's go rat-a-tat-tat with a bunch of these films. Let's start with Freaky Tales. As a Bay Area guy, I was very much in tune with the colorful, high-spirited, audacious, and genuinely creative anthology, Freaky Tales, set in Oakland, California during the 1980s. Yeah, kind of like the 1980s Momoa character. I guess we're on a roll here with the theme. Although it's kind of an anthology, format-wise. Each Freaky Tale is connected in some way with the others. They're slamming punk rock and punk rockers, hip-hop with decidedly non-PC rappers, bustin' rhymes. Speaking of bustin', there's a bone-breaking debt collector, wise-ass video store clerks, corrupt cops, and neo-Nazi skinheads all on the prowl, and they're orchestrated together by Ryan Fleck and Anna Boden, the screenwriting and directing duo behind the superhero blockbuster Captain Marvel. So they worked in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
For all of its action and high-energy music, Freaky Tales is far more down-to-earth than their Marvel Comics adaptation. There's a real sense of time and place to the movie. It's funny, it's clever, it incorporates my beloved Golden State Warriors, who kicked some Laker butt last night, by the way, but that's for another time. And it also centers on a fictionalized version of the Warriors player Sleepy Floyd and the playoffs. The playoffs during the period that this thing is set. Now, Pedro Pascal plays the debt collector, kind of a tough guy. His wife is pregnant. He gets on a crusade. He goes to a video store where he knows he can get access to some sort of underground gambling ring, and he's greeted by a video store clerk played by Tom Hanks. I mean, we have some serious talent here. Pedro Pascal, Tom Hanks, speaking of the MCU, Pascal in the upcoming Fantastic Four film.
Sure.
And we also get, among other people, Ben Mendelsohn, the great British actor playing the corrupt cop. Everything is charming and funny and crazy and rough around the edges, and I just kind of swung with it. I really enjoyed Freaky Tales, and I kind of trust these people. They've made a really cool couple of films so far, and this one also fits right in with that. It is, I guess, in select theaters, and no, you know what? Yeah, select theaters. It's going to open wider. Freaky Tales, and again, as a guy who actually lived in Oakland briefly, I had a real love for it. There's a whole big sequence with the Grand Lake Theater, which is a wonderful kind of
great
vintage theater that's in the heart of Oakland.
I love it. So he likes Freaky Tales, not so much a Minecraft movie. What's next?
Okay. The esteemed actor Michael Shannon directs an accomplished cast in a very dark but moving film called Eric LaRue. A lot of people are enjoying Adolescence on Netflix, which is about the possibility that a young kid has killed a classmate. And Eric LaRue is about the aftermath of that sort of situation and how a mother and father deal with the son who has been accused, convicted, and jailed for killing 3 of his classmates, I guess Columbine style. And the quiet intensity of this movie is remarkable, and it's centered by the most impressive dramatic performance I've seen from Judy Greer, who is more known for her work in comedies, romantic and otherwise. She voices the lunatic Cheryl in the Archer comedy animated TV series, and her husband is played by Alexander Skarsgård. And while the wife is buried in her misery and trying to cope with grief after all of this time, the husband has turned fully to religion. He's at an evangelical church. He'd like her to join. Meanwhile, the pastor at her Protestant church would like to get her together with the 3 moms of the late kids and kind of talk it out. And all of this stuff is beautifully realized, beautifully acted, beautifully written. I believe it was an adaptation by Brett Naveau of his 2002 play, which is about this mom dealing with the aftermath of her son's murder spree. And also, how is the kid at this point? She isn't going to see him, at least for the first part of the movie.
Oh, I see.
It's Eric LaRue. I thought it was really well done and very, very affecting.
Wow. Okay. It's not a true story.
Well, this kind of stuff does happen.
Based on that, but it's based on
based on a circumstance and a situation that's all too familiar in our culture. Okay, based on a true story, and giving the immensely talented Paul Walter Hauser his first lead role in a feature film, The Luckiest Man in America was probably a movie that gave me as much joy, maybe even a little more than Freaky Tales. It is, again, based on actual events. It's, again, another 1980s period piece, and it's about a guy named Michael Larson who in 1984 went on a popular game show called Press Your Luck and won like crazy. And the producers, it was a CBS show. This thing is shot in CBS Television City here in Hollywood. And the producers are going bonkers because he keeps raising the amount of money and refusing to not continue to play the game, not opt out, take his money and run like most normal people.
I saw the documentary about this guy, and it's amazing. He actually studied the game board and was able to notice a pattern. This is before AI. This is before computer. He just, with the power of his brain, watched the show like every other jerk watching the show, like myself, and he noticed the press your luck board had a pattern, and he stuck with it and went on and just crushed it.
Drove the executives crazy. The guy in charge of the show is played by David Strathairn, so you've got a really terrific actor grounding that. And you also you get some really interesting supporting players, including Walton Goggins, who is so good in Fallout and so good in The White Lotus and everything he does. And here he plays Peter Tomarken, who is the host of the show. And of course, it's wildly different from his other performances, and it's right on. And some of the people who are working on the staff are excited that this guy is doing this, breaking the bank. Other people are freaking out. The executive above Strathairn's character is like, what's going on? And by the way, a production assistant is played by the wonderful Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones. She was Arya Stark, and of course she's not at all like that. It's called acting, Mark. And
I love this.
She's wonderful and charming.
So where can I see this movie?
This film is currently in select theaters.
I'm loving this. I may go see this weekend.
I think it is so in your wheelhouse. I totally enjoyed
love
the hell out of
games.
it.
I love game shows. I know this show well, and I'm familiar with this story. It's a true story.
And Hauser doesn't get enough attention. This is the sort of movie Jack Black should be making. And he's not. He's going for like a bigger payday.
Jack Black should be playing that guy that we see on the poster right there.
He couldn't have done a better job than Hauser, who was wonderful in this. And who, by the way, is getting a paycheck as part of the cast of Fantastic Four, like Pedro Pascal. Somehow this all is a giant Venn diagram, Mark. Anyway, quickly, bang, bang, bang. Hell of a Summer opens today. And it's opening kind of wide-ish, I think. So it's in a variety of different theaters, and it is a horror comedy about a series of killings that plague a group of counselors at a summer camp before the campers arrive. Kind of familiar setup. This is not terrible, but it's also not that memorable. On the other hand, there are some very engaging performers. Our nominal lead here, the guy who plays the most earnest of the counselors, the elder of the counselors, is very, very entertaining in this thing. What can I say? He's Fred Hetchinger, and I've seen him do a variety of other things, and he shows up at Camp Pineway ready for a wonderful summer. It's going to be his last time being involved, and all hell breaks loose. The writer-directing team of Billy Burke and from Stranger Things and Finn Wolfhard are also actors in this thing. They play a couple of the terrorized counselors.
How old is Billy Burke now?
No, it's not that Billy Burke. It's B-Y-R-K. It's a B-R-Y-K, rather. Anyway, this is silly, disposable fun. I mean, you've seen this sort of thing before. I don't want them to do what we sometimes suggest the studio should do. Not terrible. Michael Snyder, the Mark Thompson show. It's okay. But it is clearly familiar territory, despite the wonderful cameos, by the way, by Adam Pally from New Girl, the TV series with Zooey Deschanel.
Sure.
And Rosebud Baker, who was a stand-up comedian and a mainstay of the SNL writing staff. I've never seen her before. And she and Adam Pally opened the movie. They're sort of cameos, but I got a big kick out of seeing them work together. Let's wrap up with William Tell. This is an old school historical epic with a few A-list cast members and a sort of a cliffhanger at the end. I mean, you know the story of William Tell. He's compelled to shoot an arrow off an apple off his son's head from a distance. But there are some rousing moments here, and yes, there is an apple on William Tell's son's head at one point, and he is compelled to shoot it with an arrow. This is not to quote Beauty and the Beast, tale as old as time. This is sort of a thing that studios and independent production companies do. They take something historical and they want to make something epic, and they get the financing. This has a little of that recycled feeling, especially in the wake of some truly epic projects like even TV's Game of Thrones, aforementioned. So it's 1307, and the Holy Roman Empire is, in chaos. And so the Austrian Habsburgs led by their king, played by, are you ready for this? This is the best. It's Ben Kingsley. We have some serious A-listers here. And he would like to crush Switzerland. I don't know why. He loves their cheese, and maybe he needs a watch that needs to be fixed. Maybe he's got a chocolate allergy. I don't know. For whatever reason, he wants to control Switzerland. And William Tell and all his Swiss buddies, they're not happy. They're part of a resistance. And so it's kind of, it plays out like you'd expect it to, as the huntsman Tell saves a farmer about to be killed by the Austrian troops, and then that starts a whole series of events that leads to fighting and slashing and stabbing and shooting. And it was okay. It's okay. So the director screenwriter Nick Hamm, that's his name. I don't know if he's related to John Hamm, but John Hamm was a producer on this.
Oh.
This guy Nick Hamm keeps the balls in the air and the plates spinning. And again, you have the likes of the great, Ben Kingsley playing the King of Austria, and as William Tell, Klaus Bang, who is a terrific actor. He was in the recent first season of Bad Sisters as the bad husband, and he's played Dracula. He's a fantastic actor. He plays William Tell. There's a lot of talent on display here, but it is very conventional. Nonetheless, I enjoyed watching it.
So when he actually shoots the arrow off the kid's head, does he?
The apple, when he aims at the apple.
The
with
apple,
the arrow.
shoots the whatever.
Yeah.
Who does it? I forget what happens.
Oh, right in the kid's eye. No, I'm not going to tell you what happens. That's part of the fun, man.
All right. So William Tell, kind of meh.
No, it's good.
Very traditional. It's okay. You'll enjoy it. It's the traditional ride.
Jonathan Pryce is in this thing.
I get it. It's got great pedigree, but that doesn't mean it's a good movie. I mean,
that's true.
But it's chock full of talent.
It is. One more quick note, because
quickly, Michael. I'm sorry.
Our pal Tim Sika reviewed this last week, and I hadn't had a chance to see it, and I went to see it, and it was the most moving and emotionally powerful film I saw this week. And it's called Bob Trevino Likes It, as in, liking a post on Facebook.
Right.
And it's all about, it's a genuinely poignant, character-driven dramedy about two broken people who develop a friendship from a chance online encounter. The girl, Lily Trevino, who is basically based on the writer-director's on her. This is truly based on a true story, kind of like the.
It's her story.
Yeah, it's her story.
It's Tracy Lehman's story.
It's her story, and apparently her father was kind of a dick, and she was so in need of some kind of comfort and support and friendship that she reached out online to see if she could kind of make amends with him, and found his name, Bob Trevino, but it was another guy, and they struck up a friendship.
Wow.
So it's kind of lovely. And I have to give kudos to the young woman playing the lead character.
I love it when you give kudos.
Yeah, Barbie Ferreira, who may be related to America Ferreira. I don't know.
I don't know. You don't know a lot about the people whose names sound like other people who are involved in these projects.
Sometimes you don't.
Yeah,
you
okay. Bobby Ferreira. Yeah.
Barbie Ferreira. And
Barbie.
as her bastard of a father, French Stewart, playing a serious, obnoxious role after all those years on Third Rock from the Sun.
Oh, yeah.
And John Leguizamo as the other Bob Trevino.
I like him so much.
Magnificent performance. And the kid is great. Barbie's great. Leguizamo is great. And I will say that I missed it up at the end. The sentiment was earned, legitimate, and in no way cheap. I give this movie, Bob Trevino Likes It, 2 tears on the Snyder cryometer.
Wow, very impressive. He likes Bob Trevino Likes It. Barbie Ferreira, French Stewart, John Leguizamo. He says, see it. Get ready to be moved. William Tell, chock full of big stars and a story that you know. Michael says it's a traditional studio offering, but not bad. But just, don't expect any innovative filmmaking associated or script writing associated with it. It's kind of a more mainstream is what I got from you.
The cinematic sweep of the Tyrolean Alps is certainly gorgeous.
Hell of a Summer is the Billy Burke movie, and Hell of a Summer is they all go there for this wonderful summer camp experience, and then it turns hellish.
Yes, exactly. Before the kids even get there, it's the counselors. And
it is okay. Yeah. The Luckiest Man in America is the one I'll be seeing. Paul Walter Hauser, Walt Goggins, David Strathern. It's in select theaters. It's about the guy who watches Press Your Luck and then he goes on to the game and crushes it. I know the story, and I'm really looking forward to that movie.
You will be entertained, I promise you.
And he liked it too. Our Culture Blaster liked it. Eric LaRue, the Michael Shannon-directed film starring Alexander Skarsgård and Judy Greer. Michael liked it.
Oh, Judy Greer was phenomenal.
Yeah. He says go see it. Freaky Tales, the Pedro Pascal, Tom Hanks film in select theaters.
That's a stretch.
Tom Hanks is in it. Pedro Pascal, though, is a big part of it.
He's a central figure in the story.
He liked it, Freaky Tales. Michael likes this one. Says watch for it in select theaters.
And Oakland homeboys, get out there and support this thing.
A Minecraft movie is the Jason Momoa, Jack Black film. Michael says missable.
Yeah. It was Jack Bleak. That's all I can say.
It was not. But I must say, of that posse of films, you liked quite a few of them.
Well, yeah, and I thought that again, Judy Greer,
Judy Greer from and Eric LaRue. You liked Luckiest Man. You liked Bob Trevino likes it.
Yeah, those three are the standouts. I would say.
I am so happy that you like something, Michael. We love you. You had a great week because you were atop the leaderboard in Mark's Madness for a time. It was pretty incredible to see you rock.
Mark's Madness.
Yeah.
Let's be straight up about this. Yeah. I don't have the inside track. This was purely me doing guesswork, and I also want to point out
18 and 4.
Maybe it's not that bad that I've dropped a little in the leaderboard because honestly, I'm not a big fan of wine, nor do I need a free entry to the meet and greet as one of the other.
Don't try to spin it as some kind of. Well, you're still in the hunt, Michael.
All right,
so
fine.
Good luck. Yeah. By the way, he's voting till midnight tonight. So.
Hey, how about those Dubs? And it is opening day at Pac Bell Park. You guys know it as Oracle Park.
Yes, Michael, big Giants fan. We love you. We're a little late, but we love our time with you. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Bye-bye, Michael.
Fare thee well, everybody.
Oh, my gosh. I'll tell you guys, I would like to linger all day with this great crew. By the way, Michael Snyder can be found at thevoicesf.org if you want to read more of his musings. Thevoicesf.org. He is a great contributor to the show. We are grateful to have him. Quickly, I want to recognize, we got to do it super quickly if we can. Harry Magnan, we're allowing the illiterati to run the country, says Harry. Thank you for the $5 super chat on that. So true. And Donna McKee says, we need to figure out how to get rid of RFK Jr. before he kills us and our loved ones. I have to say, I can't believe that this dangerous guy is in charge of public policy when it comes to health. So agree with you, Donna. Really, really tough. Asbjorn, who is over in Norway, says, tough lady. I think he's talking about AOC, right? I think that's what I'm getting. Tough lady, any 110-pound woman would scare me S-less if she believes it hurt her. Oh, no, it's this is the
alligator lady.
The alligator lady. Yeah. She said, I'm 6+ feet, 250 pounds. Respect women. Yeah, if you missed it, a woman from Florida had her dog end up in the jaws of an alligator and literally pulled the alligator's jaws apart and got the dog out. That's what Asbjorn's talking about. Jim Slayton with a $20 super chat. Foxtrot Delta Tango. What does that mean, Michael Snyder? Foxtrot Delta Tango. Do you know?
If it's Foxtrot Delta Tango, I think it's F the Dodgers. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Michael. What, Michael?
No. I mean, come on. You asked the question. I'm not going to just stay silent.
You took a shot. All right. You took a shot. Ron Cook with a super sticker for 20. Thank you. We sure can use it these days and appreciate your help. Big shout out, Ron Cook. And let me just also recognize Ashley with one of my favorite names of all of our viewers, Ashley Petrus with a $20 super. Big shout out to you, Ashley. Thank you for the super sticker. And I mentioned Dakota Blue Skies, but I'll mention Dakota Blue Skies again with a $20 super sticker. And Calvin Wong, who's the shadow producer of the show, says that Trump is going to get a payoff from TikTok. I think there will be. That's a totally corrupt deal where he's essentially gifting it to an American company. So it'll be Bezos. It could be, the Muskian type person, somebody in that crew. And you're right. There are all kinds of ways it can be paid off. It's utterly corrupt, completely corrupt.
First time I've ever heard anyone say Muskian, and I think that's going to catch on.
Yeah, well, and you heard it here. Cousin Erie with a $10 super chat telling me a Fantastic Four comic from the 60s could be worth $50 or $50,000 or more.
That is absolutely true. Honestly, these guys at the Comic Book Boys will tell you, they'll give you the straight dope. I had thousands, and thousands of them were not worth very much. And they would buy them in bulk, and it cleared the space and cleared my heart.
I will have to go through my comic book collection. I thought I had some collectibles, but you're telling me that my Nancy collection is now not what I thought it would be.
Just stop it.
It's the thing about my Nancy collection, Kim, is that it soothes my heart. And at these junctures in American history, I need my heart soothed by something. And I find Nancy, that cute, curly-haired Nancy, she speaks to me. Yeah.
It's a little strange, but whatever suits your heart.
All right. You guys can all make fun of me, but I'm going to be fine with my Nancy comic. Now, Kim is doing the after party live next. So if you want to cap off the week without having to mess with politics, that is your...
We'll do it live.
Yeah.
I'll write it and we'll do it live.
That is your stop on that train. Voting continues in March Madness through midnight tonight. Guys, I know it's crazy. The tariffs are insane. Public policy is insane. We'll review it all with you beginning on Monday. Have a great week. I've got a great guest on Monday as well.
I'm Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all your support of this channel.
Bye-bye.
Out of time. Bye-bye. Thank you. And thank you, Albert. Thank you, Kim. Bye-bye.